Good morning. Welcome. I hope everything's well with you this morning and you're ready for another day. We're thinking about putting Jesus right at the centre of our lives, and we come in Luke's Gospel to this much shorter version of what's known as the Sermon on the Mount, which is recorded in Matthew's Gospel in a much fuller way. But here in Luke, it is a much shorter passage of teaching, and it's not often the version that is read in churches, because the fuller version has much more in it, of course. And there are things missing from this account, but we find Jesus having gone up a mountain to pray, and after that choosing out of all the people that were following him 12 to be the closest to him, and they're named in this chapter. And then he comes a bit further down the mountain, and there are a huge crowd of people. It's described on a level place, and they'd come from Judea and Galilee, from Tyre and Sidon. They'd come from far and wide to listen to Jesus, not only to listen to him, but to be healed of their diseases and to be cured of those who were troubled with unclean spirits, to be cured. So it quite clearly accounts here for some more deliverance. And everyone, it says here in verse 19 of chapter 6, Luke 6, all the crowd sought to touch him, for power came forth from him and healed them all. Just close your eyes for a moment, and in your thoughts see this enormous crowd of people on this level part way up a mountain, on this level place, and Jesus just on the rise above them, and they come to touch him, and they're healed. And he speaks to, he looks at all these people, and then he looks at the 12 that are closer to him, and he says, "Blessed are you poor, for yours is the kingdom of God." He looked at this whole crowd and thought perhaps again of his mission, to preach the good news to the poor. And here were people, ordinary, everyday people. There's no distinction made here. We don't get the impression that these were the well-to-do. These were the ordinary people who struggled from day to day, living their lives with sickness and unclean spirits, and they longed for better, and they longed to hear what he had to say. And one of the main things he did was to speak, to preach, to talk, to tell people the good news. And he says, "Blessed are you poor, for yours is the kingdom of God." That's a contradiction, really, isn't it? Because if you're poor, how can you have a kingdom? But the poor, those who realize they need something, who aren't self-contained and content with where they are, they long for something. They want to hear something that can change their lives and show them a better way to live. And this is exactly what Jesus did. And when you read the rest of this chapter, and you see what Jesus taught them, it's no wonder that people said, this man has turned the world upside down. Because everything about the principles of the kingdom of God is upside down to normal life. Normal life is about, if someone does something horrible to you, you get your own back somehow. And if you can't do it immediately, you plot and plan until you can get revenge, And the Old Testament view of an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth, it is the way that the world thinks, really. You do this to me, I'll do the same thing back to you. And you get lifelong, generations-long feuds between families, because this was done and this was done in return, and this was done in return for that, and this, because he goes on to say, love your enemies, do good to those who hate you, bless those who curse you, pray for those who abuse you. We're not to respond to the people who are our enemies, who hate us or who do nasty things to us. We're not to respond in like manner. We are to be different. This is what being a Christian is all about. It's actually being different. It's not about me and them. It's about me knowing Jesus and them knowing Jesus. It's not personal. It's not personal revenge. And when someone hurts you, when someone does something deliberately to hurt you and gets in your way and makes life difficult for you, the response is not to get your own back, to take out a legal suit and to sort it out, but to pray for them and bless them and love them. Love your enemies. It's a very difficult thing to do. It's very difficult. And we see in the persecuted church around the world very real examples of people loving the people who are very cruel to them, forgiving them, and forgiving people who have beaten them or stolen their property or whatever, or killed their relative. There is love and forgiveness offered all the time in these persecution situations. But in the lesser situations that you and I face, we have to be the same. We have to, having received wealth from Jesus and an assurance that heaven is to come and that whatever happens in this life is not really that important compared to eternity in God's presence, that we can, with that change of view, the view that changes from this life being all it is, there is, this life is all I've got, therefore I'm going to live it to the full, I'm going to enjoy myself, I'm going to buy all the best things, I'm going to have everything for my comfort, I'm going to put myself first, nothing else matters, because I've only one life to live, and I want to live it to the full. And many people, when they come to retirement, they think, right now is the opportunity for me to travel the world, to see the places my bucket list, all the things I've ever wanted to do, all the things I've ever wanted to do that I've set my heart on. Now is the time to fulfill all of that while I've still got health and strength to do it. It's all me, 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 and if you miss that, it's all about me. But for Jesus, it's not all about me. It's all about them. It's all about other people. It's all about Jesus. It's all about Jesus. So when we approach changes in our lives like retirement, the question is not do I want to do with the rest of my life, but what does God want me to do with the rest of my life? Do I feel like doing this or that? Or do I just not want to do it because I don't enjoy it? Well, what are we doing things for? Who are we doing things for? We have a greater purpose than simply to gratify ourselves in every stage of our life, to lie in our own nests and look after ourselves. Why do we spend money on things that don't last? We need to spend our time on things that will last for eternity. Anyway, that's enough from me. Just thinking about Jesus, the way he turned the world upside down in the thinking that he brought to the people that he met. And he blessed them and said, if you're poor, if you feel poor, you feel you need to come to me for something, you will get the kingdom of God. Because recognizing you're poor is the first step to becoming rich. And the poverty we have is not material poverty, it is spiritual poverty. And we come to the great anointed person who came to preach that good news to the poor. Lovely to see you again. I'll see you tomorrow for more thoughts for the day.